Welcome to another episode of Think Out of the Can, where we hope to inspire you to take ordinary ingredients and create
extraordinary food.
Hey, Chef Tim, what's that saying about teach a man to fish?
If you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime.
How appropriate.
I know, because we're cooking with canned salmon and canned asparagus today.
Take it away.
I sure will. We're asking you to mask up to make sure that we can flatten the curve of this COVID-19. But as I'm going to cook for you today, just like we would in our own home kitchens, I'm going to take my mask off. First recipe I have for today is a salmon and asparagus chowder, and it is really, really tasty. The first thing I do is I'm going to add a little bit of oil to a pan, add some diced onion and celery, and you want to make sure that that oil is already hot. You can see that sizzle because you don't want it to be all mushy and have the onion and celery just kind of absorb the oil. After that, you're going to cook that for about 3 minutes to get the raw onion flavor out of there, and I'm going to add a little bit of seasoned flour, and this makes a roux. What is a roux? A roux is a thickening agent. We're not going to use any heavy cream to make a chowder, and you know chowder is nice and thick. I'm going to mix that flour in there. I'm going to add a little bit more because then when I add the liquids, it is going to really, really thicken up. You're going to feel like you're in Boston when you eat this. Once that is all cooked together, I'm going to add either seafood broth, chicken broth, or vegetable broth. Whatever you have. And you want to whisk it in there. And you see how that's starting to get thick? That's what the flour does. As it starts to thicken, I'm going to add shelf-stable milk. Now, shelf-stable milk comes in either powdered form, evaporated form, or in this case, I am using a liquid shelf-stable milk. Again, I'm going to whisk that in so you have a nice creamy soup base. Next, I'm going to add diced canned potatoes. I'm going to add some cream corn, but you can add regular corn if you'd like. I'm going to add cream corn. It's just going to make it a little bit creamier. Oh man, that is really looking like chowder. Next, I'm going to add some spices. Today I'm using some Old Bay seasoning, some thyme, and some salt and pepper. Again, mix that in. Oh man, that is just looking great. Once everything is cooked in together, I'm going to finish it with the canned salmon and the canned asparagus. Mix it all together and just let it simmer for about 10 minutes so all the flavors blend together. And tell me that doesn't look like some great chowder, as they say in Boston.
Salmon and asparagus chowder. Gotta love it.
Next recipe I have is canned salmon burgers. They're really, really tasty. I'm going to take the canned salmon, put it in a mixing bowl. Next, I'm going to add crushed crackers. Doesn't matter whether it's Ritz or saltines or club crackers. It really doesn't matter. You just want crackers in there. Mix those together. Next thing I'm going to do is add some beaten egg, because you have to have a binder in there to make sure that you can get a nice burger out of it. And kind of break up some of these chunks because you don't want it to be too chunky. After all, burgers are made with ground meats and ground proteins. To give it some flavor, I'm adding some brown mustard. Hey, if you want to use Dijon, you can use Dijon. If you want to use whole grain mustard, whatever mustard you have. Mix that in there real well. I'm going to add a tiny bit of lemon juice because this is a seafood burger. Next, I'm going to add, here's the secret ingredient. How many of you use dry onion soup mix? Well, I'm going to add that for a little bit of an extra flavor instead of using raw onion that I saute. Mix everything together. This is looking like a really, really good mixture. I'm going to add a little bit more of the crackers, and I'm going to finish it simply with some salt and pepper. Mix that all together. you're going to form a salmon patty out of this mixture, and next we're going to fry it. So I put a little bit of oil in a pan. I made a patty out of the salmon mixture. Let it cook for about 4 minutes. Oh, wow. That is delicious tasting, and it's healthy. Canned salmon burger, and I'm going to use it with a little bit of remoulade sauce today. That's what I'm going to put on my burger.
Salmon burger, golden and delicious.
And finally, asparagus and potato casserole. I'm using, once again, canned potatoes, which we used a couple of weeks ago. And this is very simple. In a mixing bowl, I'm going to add canned diced potatoes, or you can dice the potatoes up yourself. The asparagus, what I'm doing is I've fried these asparagus. I breaded them with some flavored and seasoned flour and just lightly fried them. Those are going in there just to give it a little extra texture to this casserole. Next, I'm going to use a little bit of flour. That is going to bind all of the other ingredients together. Once again, I'm going to use dry onion soup mix. That's going to give it its flavor instead of, like often, I will saute fresh onions. Next ingredient, I'm going to use some mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is going to be a thickening agent, and it's also going to make this casserole really, really creamy. Here we go. We got cracker crumbs. Add the cracker crumbs, a little bit of seasoning. Today I'm going to use Italian seasoning, a little bit of Cajun seasoning, salt and pepper. And finally, I'm going to add some milk to it. Remember, with the flour in there, this is going to make it creamy, along with the mayonnaise. Mix everything together really, really well. Got to make sure it's all incorporated, and you can see the sauce that it is creating to make this really, really tasty casserole. Mix everything very thoroughly. Transfer it to an oven-proof baking dish. You're going to set your oven preheated at 350 degrees. Let me get it all in there. Evenly distribute it. And I'm going to top it with a mixture of shredded cheese and crackers. And just make sure that everything is nicely and evenly distributed. Bake it for about 25 minutes until the top is nice and melted and golden brown. And you're going to have a really tasty potato and asparagus casserole.
Tasty asparagus and potato casserole.
And this completes another episode of Think Out of the Can, today using canned salmon and canned asparagus. We made a really tasty salmon burger. Today we served it with some remoulade sauce. How about that potato and asparagus casserole topped with some fried asparagus? And boy, oh boy, I don't know about you, but that asparagus and salmon pasta looks like the best Alfredo you could ever eat. And finally, we have salmon and asparagus chowder. I feel like driving to Boston right now and putting that in a competition. And remember, you can give a man a fish and he can eat for a day, but you can teach a man to fish and he'll last for a lifetime.